this video, I want to offer you some insights and a resource to help you identify the unique gifts God has given to you, your husband, and your children. It's pretty easy for most of us to identify our spouse and our kids' needs and the concerns we have for them, because that's the stuff we're consumed with all the time. But when it comes to identifying their gifts, some of us have a harder time, and that's okay. But the process of discovering their gifts will be so rewarding for us and deeply affirming for them. I'll never forget a conversation I had once with a friend of mine who's a marriage and family therapist. She said, "Jenny, I can't tell you how many young girls come into my office, and the one thing they long for, more than anything else, is for their mom or dad to walk into their room, sit down on their bed, and ask them how they're doing, to probe into their world and just be there." As parents, I get it, we're busy, but sadly, we're often too busy, and our children feel isolated and alone. We carry burdens, but they carry burdens too, and they desperately need to know that they're not alone. Our children long to be known and affirmed for who they really are. They also long to be unconditionally loved, even for who they're not. A few years ago, I was leading a small group of teens, and these were older teens, and we came to a question that invited them to share a few of their gifts and strengths. And one of the girls in the group I knew pretty well. She was an impressive young woman, super smart, strong faith, came from a great family. But as she sat in that circle, I'll never forget the blank look on her face as she searched within herself and finally said, "You know, that's a good question. I don't really know what my gifts are. I can't think of anything." I was stunned. Here she was, about to graduate from high school, and she couldn't name one of her gifts. As moms and dads, but especially as moms, we notice the details. God has given us a special lens, the eyes to see into our children. In caring for them and raising them from the time they were born, we get to know them so intimately. That's what intimacy is. Into me see. We have the privilege of helping our children to see into themselves, to know their gifts, and also to know their weaknesses. And we have this for our husbands too. And for them to know that they are loved by God and by us unconditionally, so that they can love themselves unconditionally. The problem is, unlike God's love, our love is conditional. Sometimes we dwell on their weaknesses, maybe not outwardly, but inwardly, and either way, they know it, they feel it, that somehow they just don't measure up. They're just not enough. Anyone who's ever heard me speak knows that I always introduce myself as a recovering perfectionist. I've battled the lie for far too long that I have to be perfect, the perfect wife, the perfect mom, the perfect everything. And sadly, I started projecting that need for perfection onto my children. And what I discovered is that as moms, sometimes we focus so much on who our kids aren't that we forget who they are. We miss out on the pure gift of who they are, who God created them to be, apart from us, and who we think they should be. So for me, this process of thanking God for every gift I can possibly think of that He has given each one of my children has been transforming. You know, when addicts go into rehab, one of their assignments is to write a gratitude list, because giving thanks is therapeutic. It's rehabilitating. It's healing. It changes the way we see things. Cultivating a spirit of gratitude and thanksgiving within myself has profoundly changed the way I see my children and my husband, and it has changed me. So as you cultivate this spirit of gratitude and thanksgiving for your own husband and for your own children and for yourself, we want to encourage you and equip you. Over the years, I've discovered some incredible resources designed to help us as parents see and know our children better so that we can help them see and know themselves better, identifying the unique gifts God has given them. And I hope to share more about those resources in upcoming blogs. For now, we have a downloadable page on the website called Discovering Our Gifts, where we've offered you a pretty comprehensive list of all the gifts we might possess. As you begin to reflect on each person in your family, there will be obvious gifts that come to you immediately. But our hope is that this list will remind you of some gifts that perhaps you've forgotten, or reveal to you a gift you wouldn't necessarily have ever thought of on your own. I hope you will download and print that page as you begin to write your own master prayer lists in your MPC. But for now, I want you to go back to the page of the person in your family who's most heavy on your heart right now. And I want you to write down what you see as their greatest gift and strength. And then I encourage you to find a time to pull them aside and say, I was thinking about you today. And one of the things I appreciate so much about you? And tell them what it is. I think you will be amazed at their response. Paul writes in James 1, verse 17, "Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father." So let's thank God, our Father, who created us and loves us and has given each person in our family unique gifts and strengths. And let's pray as moms that we might have the eyes to see into our husbands and our children and ourselves so that we all can be who God created us to be, nothing more and nothing less.